Stansfield Turner, former director of the CIA. He said, "This stuff is black, black, black." And
Good evening, everybody. How are you tonight? That was our wonderful, dear, most definitely missed one and only Art Bell. And he was introducing Jim Keith. I don't know if everyone here knows about Jim Keith or not. And I wanted to do a video about Art Bell. And then I realized that Jim Keith also needs a video done as well. And he's someone actually who I got to speak with on the phone at one point. I was doing an article about his book, Black Helicopters Over America. What a title. And I just had to do an article for a friend who had an amazing newspaper here in Olympia called the Evergreen Free Press. And there is David George, and he came from a long lineage of newspaper families going back to Berlin, and he did the t-shirts for the Grateful Dead, and he was just, his fingers were in many pies. And Matt Groening, the our little very well-known Simpsons creator, actually got his start on David's paper. David was really always inspiring people, getting them to do things, really, really amazing. Similar to Art Bell in really bringing out people who maybe weren't being heard. So David said, yes, do the article, but if you do big chunks of this book, we need to get permission from the author if you use more than a certain amount of paragraphs. And I said, great, I'd love to write to the, I wrote to the publisher and gave him all the information, told him about the paper, told him about David. And then he sent back, actually he didn't send anything back. He did actually, well, he wrote a letter, but weirdly, he called back. He phoned me. I had left my phone number, not really expecting anything, but, leaving all information. And he was in like Utah or Nevada. Maybe even Idaho. He was trying to be a little bit like cagey about where he was. I didn't really care. I wasn't digging about that. I was just like so happy he called. And the reason he called was he said that he knew Matt Love, who knew David George, so he knew that newspaper. And he said, finally, a kind of wild and woolly, Northwest, I don't know, we ride old motorcycles and drink blackberry juice. I don't know, something along those lines, because, unfortunately, Jim Keith died, and he died not long after we spoke and under very mysterious circumstances. And I think you can find some of that on the internet. He fell off a soundstage at Burning Man, and this is the late 90s. I don't think it was even 2000 yet. And he fell off the soundstage, broke his knee, and then went to the hospital and died. And no one could understand how someone would die from knee surgery. He was in really great shape, and I don't know, there's more to it than that. But anyway, as you can see, he's in his black leather jacket, and I don't know, maybe he got his hair cut, but he had told me he'd had really long hair, and he'd written this book, right, Black Helicopters Over America, and was expecting to, get the 60s crowd, the Johnny's in the basement mixing up the medicine, right? I'm on the pavement talking about the government, right? He thought he was being Mr., kind of post-Woodstock. That was his audience. That was him. And instead, they made fun of him. they teased him. They called him a paranoid nut. He was completely shocked and completely, he told me he just didn't even know what to do. And then, strangely, and it is weird how projects and books and films and things we put out there in the world tend to take on a life of their own, because suddenly he started getting book orders, and huge book orders, cases of books, asking to be on radio, TV. And it was all from far-right evangelical Christian groups. And he said he would show up, and his picture had not been on the cover, I think he had said. So he would show up, and they would be expecting someone looking like, them. And, here's this wild man, pulling in on his motorcycle, and he would expect, people like him. So he said it was, I guess, very strange bedfellows that here he is with, the Rubber Tree Plant crowd, and yet he's appreciating that, hey, these people are listening. These people are onto it. The left who he thought he was, wasn't anymore, and had left him.
The research on this subject, and to be quite honest, I'm going to start right off. Jim, what is mind control? How do you accomplish this?
Well, in ancient times they used the sword and they used the gun and they used other methods like religion for pushing the populace around and getting people to do what was wanted. But in recent times, in the 20th century, there are new technologies that provide the expertise to control people totally without their knowledge. Means of electronic entrainment, brain control implants, methods of advertising that manipulate us against our will. And this isn't science fiction. This is something that's very documented. Information is misrepresented. That takes away our degree of choice. The media does that all the time.
So I'm leaving below some information for you, because he had it really some very interesting work, and here is Art Bell's final wave goodbye.